clear on it. But again, I'm just throwing it out because this is the parasha of the Beit HaMikdash. So I want to show you how that's all included. So that's why whatever happens in the Beit HaMikdash bounces right off back to us. If it's being worked the right way, we're going to be getting worked the right way. Let's say we want, what's the main thing that we want in our bodies? Blood flow. Blood flowing the right way is one of the major things. A lot of the sicknesses come from all these blood diseases. So what would we do? Let's take the model man and flow his blood the right way. When the blood's flowing the right way in the model man, our blood will flow the right way. So that's what we do, don't they? They sprinkle the blood, and they take the blood, and they put it here, and they put it there. It's almost like there's something going on that corresponds to us. And every avodah, every service that's in that Beit HaMikdash has to do with something in our system. If it goes right, we go right. And the world at large goes right. If not, who knows what's up ahead. Viruses come in and sickness comes in, either globally or in the body, and that's what is disrupted. Now we might say, today without a Beit HaMikdash, maybe we're up the creek. Because what are we going to do? We're not getting anything flowing right. But not so fast. It's true, obviously there's a down point to not having the Beit HaMikdash. It does cause certain misfortune, because we know that's the whole galut. But it doesn't mean it has to be, because if we get our act together, even when there's no Beit HaMikdash, we can have things at least go more right than they were. Okay? Of course, if we really got our act together, the Beit HaMikdash would simply just come back, so we would have it. But if it doesn't, we can kind of push off some so-called evil things. How? By reading the parts of the Beit HaMikdash. And that's what we do really in our prayers. When they say we read the Korbanot every day and we read the Ketoret every day, all this stuff about the Beit HaMikdash that we're reading many, 2-3 times a day in our prayers, that's the way we're recreating the scene. So we are getting the thing done in the Beit HaMikdash that way. The reading of it is getting it done. So if the blood isn't flowing because we're not actually sprinkling the blood or pouring the blood on things, by reading about pouring the blood gets poured. And then our blood flows. See? So there is what to do today. That's why we have to take serious these things. A lot of people like to ignore those parts in the prayers because they figure, what are they doing anyway? You can't think that. Of course, these things are so high we don't see the results. It's not going to be something that you do and you see. Like if you dig a hole, you see the hole immediately. Here, you're going to say some words of sprinkling blood, and all of a sudden something's going to happen. You're not going to see the effects so fast. So that's why people get confused and think that it may not be working. But that's why we learn Torah. It's one of the major reasons we learn Torah, because you can't look and know. You have to learn and know. If we were supposed to know by looking, we'd never know, because it's not telling. It's all hidden. It doesn't happen the moment we do something. So you can't know by looking. You have to know by learning the rules. Hashem told you what His rules are. So we'll now just assume they're happening. You don't have to see it. Once we know this is His book and this is the way He says that this is how it goes, we'll assume that it's happening. And that's emunah. That kind of an assumption is really emunah, because you have to believe because you don't know. We don't have a hands-on proof, so we have to believe. That's the difference between believing and knowing. Now, in the time of open miracles, or even of the time of Mashiach, even though it's a little different, those two phrases, it'll be a time of knowing, because everything will be instant. You do an act, you see something right there, so there's no confusion. We know exactly what we're doing. A guy puts on tefillin, he sees the reaction of what happened in the world immediately, right with it. As opposed to putting it, and we don't know what happened somewhere, we just assume or believe something happened. Okay? Because we've learned it in the Torah. Without the Torah, how would we know anything? This is where we know it. Because we're not going to know it by seeing. We're only going to know it by being told how it goes. Almost like the body. We don't see inside the body to know how it's running. So, the textbooks that explain, you have to kind of go by that. So you have to have something that's teaching you it. Otherwise, how are you going to know? So that's really what Torah is. It explains the world that's in front of us, because the world will not tell us. So the book has to tell us. But the world one day will open up and will tell us. Meaning everything will be on the spot, so that the world will, so to speak, talk to us in that sense. But it's still all in the Torah, obviously. The Torah will still be the Torah. It just means the world will also show it. Okay, now, these 3 temples, whenever we say 3, we have to, obviously, if we're going to parallel the 10s, the 3s parallel something too. Truth is, all numbers really parallel. Not everything is a parallel, but, common known number, things that have those numbers do kind of fit together. So what's the famous 3? Well, in Sfirot world, it's the 3 that act as a group, which is Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. Okay? It's really called Gedula, Gevurah, and Tiferet. Why do we know that? How do we know that? Because we say it every day. In Vayvarech David, it says, Lecha Hashem, to you, you own HaGedula, VaGevurah, VaTiferet. VaNetzach VaHod, Ki Chol, Yesod is called Kol, Lechol Lerosh, Mamlacha, that's Malchut, Mamlacha, VaMitnaseh, Lechol Lerosh. Okay, so you got all of them in there. The first 3 is alluded to somewhere else. He doesn't bring it down, because again, he's just praising for maybe this world, or, whatever it is he's David HaMelech is talking about. Now, when we talk about 3 again, we have the 3 Avot, the 3 forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. They correspond to Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, because we know Abraham is Ish HaChesed, okay? And Yitzhak was a personality that was attached to Gevurah, because he had a Yetzirah that he was fighting, his whole story. And Yaakov was Tiferet. Another name for Tiferet is also Emet. We know Titen Emet Yaakov, and that has to do also with beauty. Beauty is Torah. So we know he was the one who was in the tents learning Torah, and that's why he corresponds to that one. Okay. Now there's a famous phrase that we say that we kind of need to explain a little bit. We say a few times a day, actually 4 times a day, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Hashem is holy, holy, holy. Of course, whatever that word means in English doesn't really cut it. But whatever Kadosh means, okay, that he's separate, he's different, okay? Actually, I'll just explain that for a quick second. When we say Kiddoshim to you, we should be holy people. It means we should be parush, separate from the goyim, okay? So it's really to not be like and be separate, like your own thing. So he's Kadosh, he's the Kadosh, HaKadosh. Like we say Hakel HaKadosh, the Kadosh. So he's the separate thing. What's he separate from? He's separate from everything. He's separate from reality. There's reality and then there's him. So he is the separate one, because nothing's like him. That's really what the word Kadosh means. He's the thing that's just so separate and different from anything. Not just from one aspect like the Goyim or this and that. So he's the Holy One. So anyway, we say 3 times Holy Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Hashem Sivakot Miloko Az Kevodo. It's hard to kind of grapple with those words. Kadosh, what does it mean? Can we know what that means in any way? Is there anything to hold on to? So let's analyze. There's 3 Kadosh, and there's 3 Beit HaMikdash, Kadosh. Maybe there's something to play with there. And there is. That is where we know, you see, everything spiritual has its idea in the physical world to kind of explain it. Okay? Every concept that's in the spiritual world has its counterpart that if you look at it, you now have a little bit of a feel of what it means up there. Okay? So if Hashem's Kadosh, 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 it's so abstract, we have no idea what that means. He gave us something in the physical world that at least we can study it and have a little feel of what it means on Him. Not that we'll know what's in Him, in His self, but of what He created. You know, if He made this idea, so there has to be a way to study it. The 3 Batei Mikdash, the 3 temples, correspond to those 3 ideas of 3 holies. Okay? Now, if you look in Ubal Tzion, where there's the Aramaic translation of the Holy, 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 that sheds light on it, which we'll talk about right now. And then in the Tikunei HaZohar, the Patach Eliyahu HaNavi, that Eliyahu HaNavi said, you know, he says, Ribbon Almin and all that. He says like this, he says about the 10 Sifiran, which is the 10 Sifirot, he says, Echad Arich, V'echad Katzer, V'echad Beinoni. One is Arich, Aroch, long, one is Katzer, short, and one is Beinoni, the middle. Already he's explaining the 3 parts to it. Now in Ubal Tzion, we say, when we say Kadosh, 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 we say Kablin Den Min Den Ma'amim Berich Yikarad Hashem B'Shmei Meroma. We say the first Kadosh is Hashem in heaven, and then we say the second one is Ovad Givurta, that his Givurah made, which is down here. So already you're seeing the second one alludes to Givurah, and the first one alludes to Gidula, which is also corresponds to Shamayim and Aretz. And then the third one, Kadosh, is Le'alam Ul'alme Al-Maya, forever. It's almost like it's 1, 2, and the third one, by saying it a third time, it means it goes on forever. Okay? Now, there's a lot to talk about, but I'm trying to just narrow into a certain point. That's why I'm leaving out a few things. But here's what we can take from this. The first Beit HaMikdash is long, okay? Meaning it was not as far as timing, but it had more holiness than the second. It was long in the sense like it had more Kedusha, because the Aron was in it, wasn't in the second. So it's corresponding to that. The second one short, meaning it had less Kedusha. Because we said long, short, and also like Givurah to this world in that sense, you know, heaven and earth. And the third one, forever. And the third Beit HaMikdash is, and Beit HaMikdash going to be forever. So how do you like that? It's really alluding to the 3 Beit HaMikdash. Now I want to throw in there the Avot, because we have enough little information to see something very interesting here. The first Beit HaMikdash, and I think we might have mentioned this too. The first Beit HaMikdash corresponds then to Avraham, Avinu. The second Beit HaMikdash to Yitzchak, and the third Beit HaMikdash to Yaakov. Okay? Now Yaakov Avinu, it says that he was Shalem. It says in one of the Pesukim in the Parashiyot, in Bereshit, in the Vayishlach, I believe, which means again Shlemut, or the end, where everything's perfect, corresponds to him, which is the third one. Because ever since the third patriarch came, it's like a complete